We just do a quick prayer. Please help me through this episode, because even though I tried to prepare, I didn't get all the way there. Amen.
Amen.
That was a shit prayer. I didn't even know. I think I am still tired,
It happens. I mean, you've had a busy few days. It takes its toll.
Yeah, manic. And I didn't sleep a lot last night. Anyway, let's get out of this, get out of that, and into this. Oh, God. If I keep thinking about it, it's just going to get worse and worse, ain't it?
Just shimmy it. Just shake it. I am actually, do you know what? I might have to take this off because I feel like I'm giving Dwayne Johnson. And now I've said it, I can't unsee it. So this is coming off. No.
Okay.
That'll have to be with something else when it's just bare neck, because I can't do it with the black roll top. Yeah. I was just like,
Funny, I was going to wear a black roll neck as well. Not the pose. Right. Are we ready?
Yes. Let's get into it.
Okay. Wherever, whenever, however you're listening and or watching, thank you for pressing play today. If this is your second time, if you've been here before,
that's very specific. The second time.
The second time. Do you know what I mean? Bloody hell. Oh, here she goes. If you've been here before, hey, nice to see you again. If this is your first time, welcome to your inaugural episode of It's All Frolics. Sadly for you, I'm your lead host today. They call me Monique B, and I am joined by the stunning March fave, April G. I've been trying to figure out what March fave means. I was thinking.
Know. And then April G?
Did I say April?
Yeah.
No. Oh my God.
Yeah, I'll go by
April. The fact that I didn't even realize that is insane.
Oh my God.
Amy G. That is appalling.
Oh God, that is funny.
Oh my God. Verbal typos. That I didn't even realize happened. Oh my gosh. Okay, so what's going on today? Well, before we get into all of that, let me just tell you to do all of the things. To help me remember, we've come up with an acronym that goes by SELF. So do it for self. Subscribe because you deserve nice things. Engage because your voice deserves to be heard. Like because your feelings deserve to be validated. And forward and follow. Sure, because sharing is caring. This is a fucking wreck.
It's not even a drunk episode, you know?
I think I'd do better we've got the Christmas one coming up, and Christmas is hurtling towards us, so.
I know. That feels so crazy because last year's Christmas episode feels like yesterday.
Oh my God.
I can't believe that, actually. How mad.
This year has just popped up and is about to pop out. It's crazy.
Yeah, dip in, dip out.
But then at the same time, it does feel very long because my birthday stuff felt like last year. Like that holiday, that whole sip and paint thing that we did. It just seems like so long ago.
I suppose.
It's weird.
Maybe it's because you've managed to do quite a lot in this year. Like, you've been to Paris twice this year?
Yeah, actually.
You went to, is it Tunisia?
Mm-hmm. Look at you remembering the things.
Just.
Just.
It's like.
You went somewhere. Yeah, maybe that is why a lot has happened. And it's great. It's been a really nice year. Like, I've got no complaints at all. Like, grateful that there's not been any like dramas or anything like that. Touch wood, long may it continue. But it's just wild to think that this year is wrapping up. Like, it's nuts.
I know. My pockets are definitely feeling it at the moment. Just like all of the events that happen. I don't know why. Like, maybe it is just Christmas, but like everyone comes out of the woodwork, like end of November, beginning of December, and it's like, hey, do you want to hang
Want to
out
meet up
before Christmas?
Yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah.
we've had a whole year, and now you want to hang out in this 2-week period?
That's so funny. I'm laughing because that's actually me, because I've like messaged 3 people.
Have you? Guilty. Oh God.
Yeah. So my bad. But I only want to come and sit on your couch and chat, Nothing
That's
crazy.
cool though. Yeah, that's all right. Because if I'm going to be at home, you can join me at home. It's all good.
There we go.
I don't mind
Pocket
those
friendly.
ones. Yeah. Definitely. Just bring a bottle of Baileys, for which you can get for £10 at the moment for a litre.
Absolutely.
I mean,
don't forget your Nectar card.
Yeah, but that wouldn't even get you an entree in a restaurant. So we're already saving pennies.
Right. See? Okay. Now that we've done that, we're going to have to get straight into the deep dive because your girl doesn't have a warm-up. But it's fine. I think this one might take us a minute to get through because it is quite
meaty.
Quite a deep one. It is, yes. So this week's deep dive, we are talking all things imposter syndrome. What it is, what our experiences are with it, and how it shows up. Off the bat, how did you feel when you saw the question? Were you just like, eek? Did loads of memories come flooding back? Or you just like, yeah, I got this?
No, do you know what? I was quite excited for the topic because it meant that I could revisit something that keeps popping up in my life quite a lot. And I don't feel as though I've truly understood how it shows up and how I can manage it. Because I definitely know it's not something I'm going to be able to get rid of.
Yeah.
So just like learning to manage it. And I did a lot of work on it a few years ago. And then it's just been like put on a shelf.
Yeah.
And when you're like, it just becomes part of your background. And every now and again, it catches your eye and you're like, oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I need to find a permanent home for you, preferably deep down in the dungeon, where you can't scramble out. It was really, I was quite interested and excited about that. But at the same time, once I started reading bits about it, I was like, yeah, I don't feel like I've done any work on this bad boy at all.
I mean, it's one of those things that, you're really having to really look at yourself. It's bringing up, obviously, I think anytime you're doing like the work, your childhood stuff come up, horrible experiences come up that you would rather not think about, So it is quite laborsome to really dig into it. Just to start, though, maybe if we just clarify what imposter syndrome is. So it's not really like a mental disorder. It's classed as like a cognitive, oh my God, what is it called? A cognitive distortion. So they basically say that it's the persistent inability to believe that your success is deserved or that it's been legitimately achieved as a result of your efforts and skills. So when you feel like an imposter, essentially you feel the need to like prove your worth or hide your perceived incompetence. I couldn't really think of too many things for myself in terms of suffering with imposter syndrome. But then doing a little bit of research, I'm like, oh no, I'm all up and through there.
Yeah.
So one of the first things that I was looking at is how it actually shows up. Because for me, when I think of imposter syndrome, the first thing I think is, being in a space or a room with people where I feel like everyone's kind of got it, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm just faking it or pretending, almost like, how did I get here? So some of the ways that imposter syndrome shows up will be in self-doubt. So feeling like you're a fraud or you don't belong in the room. And then you have the fear of failure, perfectionism, which was new to me. I didn't realize that that's how it could show up. Rationalizing your success. So, like accrediting your accomplishments to sources outside of yourself, self-sabotage, so putting things off or avoiding new opportunities, and burnout. So pushing yourself too hard to sort of prove your worth to the point that you burn out.
That's so
Do any of
interesting.
those?
Do they resonate? Hell yeah, all of them. And actually, as part of like my research, the thing that really kind of surprised me was, although I've looked at this before in the past, this is the first time I've come across like the 5 types of imposter syndrome.
Mm,
And all of the things that you mentioned there are kind of like ways in which imposter syndrome shows up in your life, like the perfectionist element
mm-hmm,
of it. There was one that was called the superhero, and I was just like,
mm.
this sounds like a bit of me. And that is just doing everything for everyone and trying to give 100% to each of those areas, and still feeling at the end of it, I wish I could have done more. I wish I could do more. And that, do you know what really kicked me in the teeth with that one was because I feel like in the last couple of weeks, I have literally said that to you about something. And I was just like, oh God.
I mean, honestly, I could probably like take it back to throughout this year. You've been saying that phrase, I wish I could do more, is
Yeah.
like a reoccurring thing with you. And it's just, I was going to say it's so funny, but it's not at all funny. But it's just interesting that as an observer of you, I see that you do a lot. So I'm just like, where is she trying to do more? Like, there is no more. She's actually doing too much. So like, we need to
Yeah.
pull back a little bit. But yeah, the superhero, or the superhuman is definitely like one of the types of what's it called?
Imposter
The types
syndrome.
of position. There we go. Yes, I've actually got
Yeah.
a couple of others here. So we've got the perfectionist. So the perfectionist is someone that must ensure everything is done without a flaw or error. They're always hungry for more success, better outcomes, and higher prestige. So if you're a perfectionist, you're more than likely to feel unsatisfied no matter how much or how hard you work, and regardless of the ambitions and goals that you achieve, which just sounds like an horrendous circle to
Yeah.
be in.
Because you have such high standards that even when you achieve a goal that you set out for yourself, you're
Yeah,
still not satisfied with the outcome.
yeah,
Um, and that's so sad because it's like, when will you ever be happy?
yeah. I mean, if staying on that track, the answer is like never.
Yeah, you can't. And also,
There's like
perfection
no,
does not exist. So you are
literally.
literally, your goal is unattainable,
Mm-hmm.
which is, oh,
Madness.
yeah.
Then,
I used to think that I was a perfectionist, but I feel like I'm not so much. I don't I don't relate to that as much as I relate to some of the other types.
I definitely don't relate to being a perfectionist. Like, I don't have the stick-to-itiveness to be a perfectionist. I don't.
Well done. I like that.
I get to a point where I'm like, that'll do. And I don't feel like perfectionists know how to be like, okay, that's just going to have to suffice. Like, no, I get to a point, I'm just like, I just can't. I don't want to. So
that's real.
I'm trying so many other ways to like not say lazy, because that is a bit of a trigger word for me. That's the first thing that I think of, but anyway, that's a whole other thing. Right, another type of imposter that we have is the natural genius. I don't know if you came across that one. So if you are a natural genius, you aim to get things done quickly and tend to believe you'll always get it right on the first time. So things like coworker feedback, critiques, or being asked to do something again will feel like threats. So from your perspective, you fail if you're asked to make any changes to the things that you've done. You're used to putting in minimal effort into your work, yet succeeding. So I feel like I've got a little bit of this with certain things.
Okay. Like what?
Anything sort of like artsy or anything like to do with IT, where I can like self-teach. I'm like, oh yeah, I've got it. And I'll create this bit of work and then possibly share it, because that's a whole other thing as well, which comes into like another category, actually not wanting to share your work. But when I do, if there's like any kind of kickback about it, it's just like, okay, well, the whole thing's trash then. It's not great. And also wild to think that on the first try, you'll get it right. But I do notice that with myself. I'll see someone do I can see someone do something and be like, oh, I can absolutely do that. And then I'll give it a go. And I'm not always looking for it to be like exact, but definitely like good enough. And then when it doesn't happen, it's just like, what? It's just, the brain is not computing. Like, I should be able to do that. I don't have the grace to be like a learner sometimes.
I feel like it's mad that that's a type of imposter syndrome. Like for me, that doesn't compute. Because I am familiar with like a few people who demonstrate that kind of behavior. And I would never have made the assumption that they have any type of imposter syndrome whatsoever. It's just a case of a massive ego, as opposed to like, like feeling like actually, this isn't for me. But on a lighter note, I do remember Matt and we saw this piece of art. I wasn't won over by it. Like, it was different, but I wasn't like, oh yeah, I want to showcase that in my home. But he was just like, oh, I really think this is amazing. But I reckon we can do it ourselves. So I was like, oh, okay, this is an interesting idea. So we got all of the ingredients. We got all of the equipment, and we sat down and had an evening where we were trying to replicate the outcomes. I felt like I was back in reception. Like, I genuinely was like, what 2-year-old has done this? Because this looks awful. Both of us were like, yeah. And the actual original looks so simplistic. So we were like, yeah, we're definitely going to be able to do this. And then we tried and was like, no, there's much more skill here than we've given credit for. But it was just like those crazy kind of things. I know.
Yeah, that's why I get pissed off. I'm just like, what do you mean? It's a circle and a square. Why can I not do this? I'm seeing triangles and hexagons. This makes no sense. What's going on? Whereas you were just like, yeah, hands up, fair enough.
Looks
there
like
is
shit.
More to it. And I'm just like, no, trickery.
Oh dear. That's quite interesting though, like in terms of minimal effort but always succeeding.
Yeah, I guess if you're someone that's kind of like used to getting like catching on to things quite quickly,
Yeah.
when it doesn't happen, it's just your brain starts glitching. Like, what do you mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Mm.
not
Okay.
crazy, but I
Next,
definitely have a sprinkle.
a sprinkle of that
A
one.
sprinkle, yeah.
I've got a sprinkle of the perfectionist. I don't have a sprinkle of the natural genius.
Yeah, the perfectionist is
I'm a try again kind of gal.
Oh,
If
I'm
at
not.
first you don't succeed.
If at first I didn't succeed, it can't be done. Anyway. So the other type that we have listed here is the soloist. So the soloist is also not interested in getting support from others to do their work. Am I reading that right? The soloist is also not interested in getting support from others to do their work. Additionally, they are generally unwilling to ask for help, regardless of the situation. This is because asking for assistance makes them feel vulnerable and expose what they don't know or can't do. Yeah. I mean, we've had a few discussions where we've spoken about this. Again, it was interesting to learn that this is classed as a type of imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Because for me, I'm not consciously thinking,
No.
oh, they're
But
going to know.
that description makes sense in terms of like asking people for help will show you don't
Yeah,
have the
the
knowledge or
knowledge.
skill. Yeah. And I
Yeah.
feel like that shows up in both of us. And I feel like maybe another party member as well.
Yeah, we did. We did say this year that we were going to try and like use the network more and
Yeah.
ask for help. Do you think you've Do you think you've done that this year?
No, I don't think so. I don't,
Trying to
and
think of.
I think that I might be more vocal,
Mm,
but it's such an ingrained trait to just trying to figure things out on my own
yeah,
that I think it will just take more awareness over time before I start feeling comfortable to be like, oh, okay, this is one of those situations where actually I need to ask for assistance as opposed to
yeah,
just trying to do it myself. And I'm still coming to that realization after the fact, not in the moment.
yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, in the moment, I struggle with it because I'm impatient. Like, yes, there's that part about not wanting to like bother other people, or like impact their schedule. But a big part of it is like, I want this done now.
Mm,
So if I am asking for help, then I have to wait. I have to I have to wait and I don't want to, I want this thing done now because there's other things I need to do after that,
yeah.
so that's an issue. Just trying to be a bit more patient,
Mm,
because is anything really that critical where you can't wait a couple of days? Or the thought of it, I'm just like, it's critical for my nervous system that we get this done now.
yeah. It's again for me, it's all that timing thing because you've been unconsciously getting to a point where you're ready to work on it. But if you've not mentioned that to anybody, they're not
Yeah.
on the same time frame. So you're in the now phase and they're just, or if you said anything, people are
Mm,
just learning about it. So, they then have to get their stuff in order to provide some time to help you with your problem, whereas you're like
yeah.
all in it and just want it done
Want it done.
and out of the
Yeah.
way so you can move on to the next thing that's waiting in the wings for you to kind of start.
Yeah.
Do you know what's quite interesting actually? I have manipulated the other half this week. Um, you see this painting thing here?
Let's have a look. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So we got that on holiday in February and it's been rolled up since then. And we've been talking about getting a canvas and, tacking it to the canvas and putting it up.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously we're now in December. this weekend, I was just like, well, no, last week, I was just like, I'm not waiting anymore. Like, we've been talking about it. It's been mentioned a few times. Oh, we should get that painting done. We should do it. And nothing has happened. So I just measured it and ordered the canvas for it to be stretched over. And then it arrived and I was like, oh yeah, so we could do this thing now.
Yeah.
And then he was all for it because it meant obviously the piece of work. But so now I'm just like, okay, I'm not going to do this completely on my own because I absolutely would. But
Okay, so you're making a point to
just like
share the load with it.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, it's got
Good for
nothing to do
you.
with the imposter syndrome thing. But I was just like, in terms of doing things on my own and doing it in the timing, I could have
Yeah.
done that in February, to be honest. But I'm like, this is a joint experience. Come on. So then I'm like, I've done half of it. And
You've literally got the
then,
ball rolling.
yes, that's
You've got the ingredients, as you said earlier.
Yeah, my ingredients.
Tools, yeah.
Ready to go. But this is another sprinkling for me.
Okay. The
The
soloist. Yeah,
soloist.
I've got a good healthy dose of that. Also, as well, but as you were telling me about the canvas, I was thinking, I mean, I was listening, obviously, but then there's the other
You can
part
be in
that's
two
going.
places at one time.
I do find it difficult to accept help as well, because there's just this innate feeling of like, okay, I've got to do something for you now.
Okay.
You know, it's just like just saying thanks and like being grateful for the help just doesn't like feel like enough. It's just, okay, so what can I do for you now? And not that I mind doing things for other people, but I think there might be that whole like, I don't know how to word it, but that definitely comes up. Like, I need to do something. I have to repay this back. And it's not a feeling that I like.
Do you feel like they will hold that help against you at some point, and so therefore you feel the pressure to reciprocate?
No,
Or
I know what it is. I feel undeserving. So if I can pay this back, then it's just like, okay,
we're even.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh God, let's move on. Right.
Okay.
The expert. The expert is the other type of imposter. So the expert feels the need to have every bit of knowledge and experience possible before attempting a job. They may be critical of others around them who learn to work or take aspirational roles. Often, they don't recognize that certainty and having all the answers isn't expected or necessary. So, before you attempt the thing, you have to know any and everything about it before you'd even give it a go.
I think there's a sprinkling of that for me. I would say my example is the coaching stuff. And
can I just say snap? Because I literally have that example.
Yeah, I definitely feel, but I think there's something bigger to that for me. It's about, so obviously with coaching, it's not your responsibility to change the person's life. You are literally assisting them on their journey through very pointed, probing questions so they can solve their own problems or challenges, whatever. I think this is more on a personality point. I feel that I have power over the outcome based on the questions that I ask. And therefore, I do not want to ask the questions because I do not want the responsibility of that person's life. That's what really makes me hesitate.
Okay.
So although I think I could do a really good job as a coach.
Do a really good job.
But I feel, because I have this weight of the responsibility, which I have to point out does not exist.
Yeah. And you think
this
that would be
perceived
comforting
way.
to us, right? Because it's not our responsibility we're not trying to fix, we're not trying to change.
But
We're
I'm
just like,
putting the responsibility in
yeah,
there. I'm
it's
I'm
crazy.
putting the responsibility on this role of which it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And I'm fearful of that So that's how fucked up this
Ah.
person is, because I'm creating my own friggin' issues. And I know about it. That's the wildest thing.
Yeah.
That's the wildest thing is I know that is why I do not go down that path. And yet I have enrolled on any and every course and read the books, and they still sit on the shelf gathering dust,
Yeah.
looking at me going like, why the fuck did you spend $8.99, $12.99, $39.99 on me if we are not putting any of this into practice? Do you know what I mean? And it's because I feel like I need to know all of the answers before I
Yeah.
can even open that door. I used to feel that about my actual job, until I did the qualification, and then I realized everyone is winging it. So there are some people who are really diligently doing it, but most of the time there are so many other variable factors that knowing this doesn't make any difference to the success of you
Yeah.
doing your job. So I was like, oh, okay, I've worked my way up to getting this qualification because I felt like I need this qualification to do the job and make me feel worthy of doing the job. So I don't feel like an imposter in this area. And yet I've done it, and I feel like I learned more on my journey than in this course that I've been working towards.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
A lot of the
So,
time as well, courses are quite static as well. Do you know what I mean? It's all kind of
yeah,
like theory. The best learning is on the job, you know?
yeah. But
And
if you
then,
do have a course that you're learning the theory and the assignment is to put that into practice and report it
yeah,
back,
yeah.
then it works because it's a partnership between the two. So you really can test and learn from it. But that's only if you're in an environment where you can
Where you
actually
can.
do that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's still all theory, and it's, yeah. So
Glad you
I'm
married
sorry,
the
we're not
two.
massive tangent on that, but yeah,
No, not at
definitely
all. I
sprinkling
mean,
that bit.
yeah. I mean, it showed up for me with like my coaching journey as well. But not because I felt like I needed to know everything. I think this is where like the natural genius part slash ego bit came in, because when I started that coaching journey, I was just like, I'm kind of a coach in my real life anyway. So like learning all this other stuff just makes I can expand on that properly.
Yeah,
You know, I can do that properly, you know,
yeah,
and have like a better impact. But then as I got along and started like coaching people, I just started to feel so inferior. There we go, bloody hell. Because my thinking was just like, how am I here trying to help other people sort their life out when mine is burning? Like, I couldn't reconcile that at all. It just felt like, who are you to be really trying to help people and get them to pay you to do it? Because it's one thing
mm,
when you're like having conversations and again, you're just there to facilitate someone's thinking. That's one thing. But when you're just like, and that will be like £80, please, like that. For me, that's where the responsibility part kicked in.
yeah,
Because the learning part, I always figured the more I do, the better I will get. And that's a place where that's kind of like a profession where I feel like I've always felt I will come back to that, you
yeah,
know? So, which is kind of major for me because I'm always worrying about, you know, how I'm being perceived and how things look. So for me to be relaxed in that knowledge, I was like, okay, this for me, I felt like that's how I know that's the right path for me, because the knowledge part didn't freak me out. But then at the same time, it's just like, yeah, but God, you're just about getting in the shower every day. Your kids are running around crazy. They're not, but you know, that's how I felt. So I'm just like, you're not in any position to try and help anyone sort themselves out. What are you doing?
Yeah, that's the
And then,
responsibility of it, because you're literally like, oh,
yeah,
I should be able to do all of these things and be the expert, actually. That's the
yeah,
expert of having, not just having that knowledge, but being
yeah,
able to apply it and be a success in that. So
yeah,
then feeling like a fraud when that doesn't actually work out, and yet you're trying to help other people sort their life out. That doesn't,
yeah.
I mean,
It's nuts. I mean, it's completely, well, it's all any type of imposter is all an internal battle. But in
yeah,
that specific coaching setting, you're there for the other person completely. So those things would not even come up anyway,
yeah.
you know? So it's just crazy how we really talk ourselves out of these things.
Self-sabotage.
Literally. I think I cut
I
you off.
know.
What were you going to say? Can you remember? Hopefully you can.
No, I don't think
No.
I was actually going to say anything. I was just like,
You're onto something. Okay, I think I've got two more types of imposters here. So, um, the noticer. Did you see this one?
I didn't come across this one.
Okay. This is definitely a bit of me. So, noticers struggle to feel proud of their work or themselves because they immediately turn their attention to things that aren't perfect. I'll put the perfect in quotes there. Whether during a work project or in a meeting, noticers forgive others but don't extend the same grace to themselves. When a tough project or situation ends, noticers feel relief instead of pride. Ring any bells? Feel familiar to
Um,
you?
I
Or,
think the grace, like forgiving others and not giving
yeah.
yourself the same amount of grace, definitely. Um, I look, if a job has been done well, then I will toot my own horn. I don't have,
Mm,
I
good.
don't think I have a problem necessarily in that area. Um,
What about when others commend you for it?
mm, Listen, internally, I love to hear all of that stuff. Like,
Okay.
genuinely, like, I love hearing it, but it's uncomfortable in
Okay.
the
Yeah, yeah,
moment.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
need it. I know I need the validation and the recognition. Like, I genuinely do. If I work my ass off and like feel like this is a masterpiece, like move over, Leonardo. Do you know what I mean? Amy's got
Yeah.
it. Like if I feel like I've done such good work and no one says anything about it, I'm pissed.
Okay.
Recognize my brilliance, god damn it. Do you know what I mean? So I don't feel like I'm craving it, but as soon as it happens, I'm like, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
It's
I
uncomfortable to hear it in person, but inside I'm just like, yeah, goddamn no. I put my
yeah.
hand, my fist, my ass, my blood, my tears, my foot in that project.
Yeah.
So
Notice this, but don't say too much.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I give this one. I'm trying to think now. There are some things that I do. I'm just like, okay, yeah, that was a good job. But for anyone else to be like, oh, that was really great, it's just, I don't know. This is going to sound so wild, but like the feeling that I get when I get work praise sometimes, even like at work as well, like if I have like appraisals and stuff, it feels patronizing. Like that's how
Oh,
I feel, just like you guys are just like trying to find something to say here. Do you know what I mean? It's crazy. Like I always, but I have like my one-to-ones and stuff like that. It's like the worst hour of life was this. They're giving me all of these examples of like stuff that I've done, things that have been noticed and like handled really well and stuff. And it's, I guess it's, hear me, it's, I guess it's good. It's good, obviously, but I just cannot receive it at all. I can't receive it. It just seems, I don't know, kind of like a tick box thing. Just like, okay, you're supposed to say that it was a job well done. Obviously, they're not, because if I'm talking specifically about work now, as the employer, they have to kind of, review your performance. That's the whole point. So if there are weak areas, they would definitely raise them, right?
Well, they should.
Yeah, no, right. They
Maybe
would.
not in your appraisal, but definitely in your one-to-ones.
Yeah, they would be brought
Plugging that
up.
for all of those managers. Don't leave it until the appraisal. Do it as and when.
But yeah, I just find it really awkward to receive. It just feels like, not that you don't really mean it, but you don't really mean it.
That's an internal,
It's
that's a you thing. That is an absolute you thing.
absolutely, it's
Have
amazing.
you ever spoken to your bosses about that? Like, in
Yeah.
terms of not feeling.
Lucky for me, every manager that I've had, I've been able to talk to like how I talk to anyone else.
Yeah.
So thankfully, I don't have like a work version of me. I would just like say it like it is. And many times I'm just like, when they're like raising stuff that they feel like I've handled well, I will sigh, be like, okay, like I'm literally just like, how I'm talking to you now is how I am I'm not professional at all, like at all. But no, I mean they're very nice about it and kind of just really trying to get the point across that if there was an issue, the issue would be raised, and that I should be proud of the work that I've done and that I'm doing, and it's not going unnoticed, basically. So they're typically
Yeah.
very positive, but it's just orcs. It really is awkward. I would love to just not feel that way anymore. There was a period of time where I was just like, you're not going to talk this down. You're just going to smile and nod and say thanks, As part of that whole trying to change my like internal dialogue thing, I was just like, we're not going to talk it down. We're just going to accept it. Because as I said before, if there was a problem, the problem
Yeah.
would be raised. So the fact that nothing like that is being brought up is definitely a you thing. But it's exhausting as well. It's just like, why? And after so long, it's just like, are we not bored of this? Like sometimes I
I
sit and have this
know.
conversation with myself, like, God, are we not bored of this? This is just so whack now. Come on.
That's what really, I think, sometimes drives me to do all of the reading and watch all of the kind of like self-help video things that are out there, or explore. I think we've done a lot through tackling some of the deep dives, like some of the questions that we've sat with and have kind of tried to figure out where it comes from. Because something like that has been with us for so long and it will take a while to shift. But if you could just pinpoint what triggered it in the first place,
Yeah.
and retell that story in some way, it could have
Yeah.
such a massive, massive difference. But you have to have the courage and the determination and the energy to keep digging. We are basically archaeologists of our own, like, of ourselves, of our deep self. And sometimes, yeah, it's just do we really need to see this Tyrannosaurus Rex? I don't think so. We have a rough idea of what it looks like. Let's leave it at that.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, it's giving 2025 for me because through conversations that I've had with you and my sister, even over the last couple of weeks, I'm going back into not so much coaching, but I think I'm going to go into counseling, like properly now. And, as part of the training for that, you have to be counseled. You have to be in therapy. So I'm just like, well, now's the time. Let's do
why
it. So
not?
I've got a good idea of where that stuff comes from. But honestly, I don't want to deal with it. Like, I don't. But I have
But
to, because
maybe it's a case of you not dealing with it on your own. You know,
what
like
do you mean?
having someone, it might be an easier journey when you have someone who knows what they're doing
Oh no, yeah, that's
to
what I mean.
guide you
Like,
through.
yes. Therapy in a nutshell. That's what you're
Yeah.
saying, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but that's what I'm saying. Like in terms of you saying I don't want to do it, but maybe that's just coming from a fact of like you've never had the opportunity to have someone who knows how to hold
Oh,
your
okay.
hand through it.
Gotcha.
Like
Yeah.
you've been doing it all on your own this whole
Yeah.
time.
Of course,
So
soloist.
I know.
Help? What?
Well, here you go. First step already,
Yeah.
like venturing into actually being coached. I'm not coached, counseled, or going into therapy for it. I think it would be really interesting for you.
Yeah.
Everyone should at some point in their lives.
We all need it. Like
It's a shame that
we
it's so
said
expensive.
before, I know. We're all like 7-year-olds running around here trying to be adults, but okay. The last type of imposter that I've come across is the discounter. So, the discounter automatically dismisses evidence of their competence or achievement. They don't value or trust their network of supporters. They doubt the quality or level of competition anywhere they're successful and are ashamed to share something they feel anyone could have done. I am that. That is me. That's what I've got. I like identify quite a lot with that. A lot of the times I will forget things that I've done, and other people will be like, do you remember this thing that you achieved? I think I've even said this recently on here, actually. It will be like my friends and my family will be like, but you did this thing that, it just does not register with me. It's like if there's no struggle, if it wasn't long and agonizing, if there was no hustle and grind to like get it, then is there any value in it?
Oh,
Anyone can do it, And for me, that's my opinion on, not my opinion, hold on, what am I trying to say? I feel like that's what my definition of imposter syndrome is. It's like, if you're in a space where it doesn't feel like it's been difficult to get there. Not to say that it's been completely without challenges, but if you've gotten there without this crazy struggle, without all the tears, then do you really deserve to be there? Does that make sense?
so essentially you're saying in order to feel competent in something, you need to fight for it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's true. I think actually imposter syndrome is, I think, an indication that you're actually in flow. Because if it's not difficult, then it's almost just like it's a natural talent almost.
Yeah, strength. Yeah.
So, and that's why it doesn't register. What is your thoughts of the discounter?
In relation to myself or just in general?
Okay, so do you relate? Are there any aspects of that where you're just like, yeah?
Yeah, there are. I think there are. I think that's for anyone can experience some of those things because there are, and you hit the nail on the head when you're talking about it being like a natural flow or natural talent or strength, where you're not feeling like it is difficult for you to achieve. And then I think you can quite easily just then tar that with, well, anyone could do that.
Yeah.
And I think, do you know, I feel as though women, and sorry, men, for those of you who listen or watch, I do feel like this is something that women struggle with a lot, because we are fantastic. Most, not everybody, most are fantastic multitaskers. You can be thinking or doing or planning a multitude of things in one go, and being able to pull off certain projects as well, like working full time, looking after kids, planning after school activities, what you have in the cupboards for dinner. Oh, this person's got a birthday coming up. All of these things are bubbling away, right? And when you then say put on a dinner for guests, whilst you've been managing all of those other things in the background, and people thank you for a wonderful meal, an automatic response would be like, oh, it was nothing, just something I pulled together. No.
Yeah.
No. That's not necessarily
Yeah.
the case. And I think that sometimes we are all this discounter for a lot of the normal day-to-day things that we think that everyone can do. The ability is there for a lot of people. Being able to do it, pull it all off, not so much.
Fair point.
But I think that we can train ourselves into that thought process and then fall under the discounter type. Something that I read about the imposter syndrome is that the vast majority, although it can be experienced by any and everyone, the vast majority of people are women and people of color.
I saw the same thing. I actually was meant to like Google the stat, because I'd be really interested to know like what the percentage is in comparison. But it makes sense. I mean, I've said it before, all roads lead back to the patriarchy. Like these systems in place really aren't set up for us at all. So that whole thing about having to work, you know, twice as hard to get half as much, or you know, to do the exact same work as like your male counterpart and it not be recognized at all.
The same,
Of
at all, or the
course
same,
you're gonna, of course you're gonna feel like, well, I'll just have to do more then. You know, it's like, it's not enough. It's not enough. Because the systems in place aren't, they're not there to kind of reflect us at all.
Yeah.
Power,
Which is
uplift.
so sad, because I was on, obviously we're looking at the types of imposter syndrome, we're talking about our own experiences with it, and then the big question is, well, where the hell does this all come from? And there isn't one thing that triggers it. There's a multitude of different things. It could be your own personality, it could be what did I read? It was something to do with
the childhood experiences.
Parents. It could be just in general the experience. And I think I've mentioned it one time about when my dad told me, you know, you're going to have to work twice as hard.
Yeah, I remember we spoke about that.
That has always stuck with me. And I'm not like saying, thanks, Dad, you've triggered my imposter syndrome. But I think there's a lot of different things that have triggered it, like just not having a clear sense of self, like thinking of myself. I don't want to put it on people, thinking of myself as other, because I'm not one or the other in terms of my ethnicity, because that's the whole thing, isn't it? Race, we say race, or we like whatever ethnicity, and also like moving from being in the countryside to being in London was an experience that shaped me slightly. Having the fact that both of my parents weren't married, so being other, because at that time, generally, your parents were married. It was after that it was more of a thing where parents were like cohabiting and stuff and not getting married. But at the time, it was quite big. And so constantly having to battle all of these things, well, I have to prove myself because I come from a broken home, as they would have called it back then, or, this interracial relationship. I have to show myself for that. Even having straight, which is so, I haven't done it on purpose, but even having straight hair, that was something I used to do to make me feel more worthy instead of wearing my own natural hair.
Yeah.
So many different things of kind of like not feeling part of the environment that I was in.
Yeah.
And not feeling worthy of that. So now I question most of, not everything anymore, of what I do. Actually, now I'm on this side of 40, I give less shits because I'm just like, I've worked hard for the last couple of decades. I feel like I've proven myself enough. And actually, if you don't think I'm worthy, then that's more of your problem than mine.
Yeah. That's a nice stage to be at, where it's less about what's going on the outside and what people think. For me, my battle is definitely still internal, because I definitely don't feel like I've done, like, I don't, honestly, I still, catch me in the right mood. This is actually probably the wrong mood to catch me in, because I'm tired and not feeling fantastic. So everything's always going to feel slightly worse. But honestly, I do feel like I've not done much with, the last couple of decades. I feel like I'm still yet to get my feet out the starting blocks, So although I care less about what people think, it's more because I am the worst critic of myself anyway,
Yeah.
I feel like I'm probably trying to get to the way of thinking that, no, hold on, that doesn't make sense. I think I'm trying to get to how other people see me, because those that are around me can see, the potential. I don't even want to say potential anymore. Just the things that I've done and that I'm capable of, or saying that it is potential. I'm not there yet.
We have witnessed your capability. So yes, the potential exists, but you're using it. And you're right that you do discount the evidence that is there. Because we do all see it, we know. And as soon as you were like, I feel like I'm in the starting blocks, I was just like, but hang on a minute, because for the last decade and nearly a half, there have been a couple of big events that has had to take more focus from you onto those events. And they are, let's call them projects. Those projects are thriving because of all of the effort you've put into those projects. And so your personal project has been put on pause. And you might dip in when you feel like you've got a moment, but then the other projects are like, no, I still need some attention. So then you focus on those projects. And I feel like now, over the next couple of years, you're going to have more time to work on your project.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. I think because, again, the whole self-critique thing, those projects that you speak of, I honestly feel like I'm doing an okay job. I feel like we're getting by. I see how other people are managing their things. That's the issue, isn't it? Looking at how everyone else is doing it.
And also their environments are different to yours.
They are. But it's just, I'm not there all the time, but there are just moments where it's just like, I probably should be doing that. Like, that would be really great. Why didn't I think of that? And then it comes to well, how good of a job are you doing if something that is that basic hasn't even crossed your mind. And that might even go back into the whole expert thing of feeling like you should know all of these things, you know? But then I guess when you think about it rationally, why should we know everything? It doesn't make any sense. It's impossible to know everything, you know? And I guess if I got more into the thinking of when things do cross my radar that I could be doing, maybe see it as just an opportunity rather than something that proves I'm not doing a good job.
Yeah. Well, it
So
would
just
have come
reframing
to
it.
you. It would have come, that idea would have come to you at the moment where you're open to accept it. It's not that it's always been there.
Yeah.
It's just now is the time. If we're talking about universe, it presents us with opportunities when we are ready to accept them. And if they'd been sent before, you wouldn't have even seen it because that's not
You're in the
something that
space
you
and
need to
time.
tackle.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, work, as Rihanna would say, to be
Listen.
done, but has been done. I feel like recognize that actually in order to sit and have this conversation the way that we have, I feel like we have needed to have done some work previously and to accept certain things about ourselves and to be aware about certain things of ourselves to have not spiraled right now in any of those that things. Because one thing for me that really, really stuck out was when I was looking at all of the different descriptions of what imposter syndrome was: unfounded feelings of self-doubt and incompetence. Unfounded feelings. And I was just like, shut up.
But see, I hear them just like, that's a challenge, because I bet you if you give me 5 minutes, I can come up with 10 things. Because that's how my imposter syndrome kicks up. It's just like, oh, really?
Yes.
Look at all the ways in which I'm terrible. Come on. Oh, God.
Oh, dear. Yeah.
No.
But that's, again, the perfectionism part of it, because you cannot be perfect. Of course, there are going to be examples of when you didn't do something the way that it should have been done. But we all learn from those things. I think that is it. It's just like, okay, I think one of the things that I loved learning about over the last however many years that I've been in the L&D space is the power of yet. Just like, I don't know how to do this yet.
It's
and
a
then
whole
I'm like,
new...
takes off pressure.
Takes the pressure off. It's hopeful. It gives space.
Yeah. So we're not there yet, but we're closer than we were. I think that's the thing.
Yeah, because the awareness alone.
I know.
It takes a long time to get there.
Yeah. But as soon as you're there, you can't go back. You can't go back to not knowing that about yourself. You can only move forward. And I think that's an exciting place to be, even if it feels scary. It's exciting because things can only get better.
I mean, saying that, some of the things that I came across in terms of how to overcome imposter syndrome. So some of the tips that were given were to refocus your attention on your personal values. So taking focus away from the outward signs of success and reminding yourself of what matters to you most. So are you living or carrying yourself in a way that's aligned with those values? So just more about, your characteristics, how you are as a human, how you're walking through this life versus have I achieved the things that society says I should have? Do I look the way society says I should look? So bringing it inward, is a suggested way to overcome Adopting more of a growth mindset, which is what you just basically said, adds that yet to the end of those sentences. Giving ourselves space for growth rather than sort of shutting ourselves down, basically. What else do we have? Try to stop thoughts from spiraling. I mean, rumination will really have you down bad. And I did do, I never get the acronym right first time, which is so annoying. I always say CBD, and it's not CBD.
But that can help. Cognitive behavioral
there we go.
Therapy, CBT.
There we go. When I did that a couple of years ago, I think it's not the best for me personally. It's not the most impactful talking therapy that I've done, but I think it really did curb my rumination. Because of that, honestly, you can really just like lock yourself in a mental cage for days and weeks on end if you don't learn how to like nip that in the bud. So yeah, that's one of the recommended tips to move forward. And practicing self-compassion, that grace that we give other people, give it to yourself first.
Ooh, well, so that is actually a question I've set aside for a future deep dive. Is all around compassion. So that would be interesting to do when we're in a better headspace. We're not doing it next week.
Yeah, let that be your episode, because you're not going to get much from me. No, see, like I'm doing it again. I'm sort of slipping very slowly back into that self-deprecation space again, and I'm trying to not. But yeah, I mean, it's a big deal to give yourself grace. Like it's not an easy task, unfortunately.
I will say this to you. We have talked about SAD before, and you have been very open in regards to how hard it can hit you. And we are in month 2 of that fateful space. So if you are feeling like you're slipping back into those old habits, it could be the effect of
That's actually a good point. Yeah.
Because you would already struggle in this time of year. So which is close off, and not literally, I mean like not clothed, but closed the door. And kind of coming into yourself, and that offers a space when it's dark and it's cold for all of that kind of more sinister, negative stuff to be spiraling in our lives. So just be gentle.
Guys and girls, thems and theys, let us know in the comments below if there's which type of imposter you identify with. It'd be interesting to know if there's anything that we've discussed that could help going forward in terms of like how to manage yours, or if you even suffer from it at all, because there are some people are just out here just living freely life without it.
Well, I suppose for them it would be quite interesting to have learned a little bit more about what it is and how it can show up in people, so that they might have friends or family who struggle with it, and just the knowledge that they could be going through something to just give them a little bit more grace. Just for the listeners and the watchers, could you just quickly recap the different types, just the names, the different types of imposter syndrome?
So we have the perfectionist, we have the superhuman, so those that do a lot in a short space of time. We have the natural genius, those who think they should be getting everything right first time. We have the soloist, those that cannot ask for help. The expert, those that feel like they need to have all of the information in order to do the task, the job at hand. The noticers, struggle to feel proud about their work. They can forgive others very easily, but can't extend grace to themselves. Then we have the discounter, so those that basically dismiss all evidence of their competence and achievements and feel like anyone could do the job that they do.
Thank you.
And we're back. Right, so we're going to wrap up this episode with the Media Circus. I've just got one titsy little thing because I am trying to take a social media break, and I don't know, wasn't finding too much stuff on there. So let's see. So I have a dilemma, and I'd be interested to know what you would do in this situation. So it was basically like this woman retelling this situation that she found herself in, right? So this woman's at home and her husband calls her to say that he's left his wallet at home and can she bring it out to him, like in the driveway. So he's left already for work, realised he's forgotten his wallet and he's on his way back to come and pick it up. So they basically like live in the middle of nowhere. It's like really early in the morning. She's in like this pair of jogging bottoms and like this really short crop top. So she runs out the house, sees her husband in the car. As she's walking to the car, she's just like, no one's around, it's very early, and she flashes him. So husband trying to like spice things up in the morning, right? No big deal. As she gets closer to the car, she realizes that her father-in-law is also in the car. As she's telling this story, she's basically back in her house, in her closet, thinking how she can get out of this marriage, because how does she not have to deal with this situation that she's found herself in? What do you do?
I would literally, obviously the embarrassment of handing over the thing, I would go into the back garden and I would dig the biggest hole and jump straight in it.
I should say, she didn't actually hand the wallet over. Like when she realized that her father-in-law...
Just ran back in.
She dashed the wallet and ran back in the house.
That is so embarrassing.
Yeah. I actually don't know how I would deal. Because the thing is, it's just like, if you decide to like not go to any family functions for a while, like you would feel okay.
Ever.
You'd feel okay, but there will be a time that you will see him. And obviously the last time you saw him, he saw your tits.
Listen, all I would be hoping for is a case of like dementia or Alzheimer's because I cannot be walking into a function and for him to have like a knowing smile of like, do you know what I mean? He needs to forget that immediately.
Oh my God. I don't know. I don't think I would ever. I would never live that down. I would never live that down. Ever. I mean, we had like an episode a little while ago about like embarrassing moments. This would definitely be like top of the shelf.
Top. That would be. Absolutely.
I think I would like force myself to be like, I was there, he was there, we know what happened, we will never speak of this again. And then,
I don't think I could, even
so
then.
It's addressed, but not being addressed.
No, that goes unsaid. Like, we both know we're never talking about this ever again.
Yeah.
But even with that, the dread every time you have to, before you're having to go into like a family event of just like knowing that he knows what your boobs look like.
Oh my God.
is just so, and you would never want to be in the room on your own with him, not because he's going to do anything, but just the sense of being uncomfortable. I think I would probably like the realization I'd fall over and maybe pretend that I slipped. You know what I mean? And my top just happened to fly up at the same time. You'd have to somehow.
So there's more sympathy.
Yeah.
He's like more protective over the situation. There. Yeah.
Hoping that they thought, oh my God, she slipped on something. Her top magically flew up at the same time as her arms, and we got flashed. But now she's on the floor and she looks like she's injured herself. Like there's got to be something that you have to work into. There's no chance. Or that's just like a tick you have to develop nowadays.
That's your Tourette's.
A nervous flash. God, I don't know.
That's too funny.
You'd so have to wing it.
Alzheimer's or you develop a tick.
A tick, yeah. I'm not always flashing people, but there's just the action of that every now and again. I don't know. Like you'd have to try and wing it. And obviously I'm not speaking badly on people who have Tourette's and the ticks and stuff. I'm just, or Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
It's just for the
just to illustrate the depths of the humiliation.
Gosh.
Oh my God. Yeah, that is funny because when she was retelling the story, she couldn't even get it out properly. It was like she was like half laughing, half crying because it really is giving, I'm going to leave and never come back. No one will ever see me again. I mean, you'd hope that he's like decent about it and not sort of like bring it up all of the time. Do you know what I mean?
Could you imagine being in one of those banter type families where they're just like,
it's a wrap. Then I would leave.
You'll never ever. For your birthday, you get like a birthday cake with boobs on it. Like it's going to be that kind of level. And you're just like, no, this is inappropriate. Because there's always that person that can bring anything back to that situation. And it's just like, someone's just died. At least the tits are covered. You know what I mean? You're just like head first into the grave. You're like, just bury me now. Bury me.
Yeah, tits up.
Oh, God.
Oh, my gosh.
What a nightmare. I felt that embarrassment immediately, as you said. I felt sick.
Father-in-law, I can't. All right. Let's wrap it up there. Thank you for joining us for another episode of It's All Frolics. Just a reminder to do all the things. Subscribe to the channel. Engage with us.
Follow it forward. Thanks very much, guys.
Did you just see how the energy just vanished from my body?
Oh man, it crawled its way out. Oh my Bless God. You.
Oh, thanks for joining us. Do you have anything to say to the people before we get out of here?
Listen, if you've made it this far, thank you very much. It's not like this every week. There are dips of it that are like this every week. But that's part of the fun. So see you next week.
Yeah.
Blame it on the SAT.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh my God.
Bless you.